The internet can be a dangerous place, and with kids being such a large population of its users, so often do bad situations occur. How can parents make sure their kids are safe? How can the internet be used in a healthy way? Should the internet be used at all? And is the internet required in modern society? In today's episode, we talked with a local parent and her navigation of her daughter's experience with the web.
Chicka, chicka, chicka. Let's do a sound test real quick.
How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
Okay.
I'm not doing that.
You won't do chicka, chicka? Okay. That's fine. We can hear Marcus. Nicole?
Chicka, chicka.
Yo, gabba,
Alright.
gabba.
Did we hear Azel? I don't know if we did a sound check
Hazel?
for Azel.
I think
I'm pretty sure we did. I can hear myself pretty well, honestly.
Hello.
Too. I think we should turn up just a little bit.
Like
There we go. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Perfect.
All right.
Yeah. You're the most important, so you should be the loudest.
Oh,
Yes.
no.
We can turn everyone down slightly in comparison, maybe.
That's not true. That's not true. Y'all are running the show here. I'm just a drop-in guest.
Well, we're happy to have you here.
Thank you. This is exciting. I've been hearing all sorts of stuff about your podcast and conversations, and what you all are doing here. It comes from the heart, and it's the creativity and the way that you're all expressing your voice is very connected to my inner purpose and the things that I have always thrived in. And in high school, I was a digital media nerd. So we didn't have podcasts, but we had Bruin television. So there are a lot of really, really bad produced newsreels of what's up today.
Can we find these on YouTube?
Oh, I really hope not.
Oh, we're gonna. We are so going to look.
I don't know. YouTube, again, YouTube was like, thankfully not quite a thing yet when we were like, we had
It
to like
is now.
hardline. It is now, but I'm hoping nobody was mean and uploaded these things. So yeah, we'll see. I've never Googled that. So we can hope. I don't know.
Well, we'd been told that you have a story about online safety and stuff. We don't know the story yet.
We've just been told it's a very interesting story, and we're in for a ride by a lot of different people that just like, oh, no, we don't want to spoil it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. So they've told you about a book, but not, given you any.
A little bit. We just know that it's kind of heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I wrote this as an open letter to young people, but also I have a little bit different ask to adults and policymakers. But, I haven't yet shared this with anybody besides my family. I grew up in Brookings, and my husband grew up here in Crescent City. I have a 13-year-old and I have a 5-year-old. So my 13-year-old, this is really who the story centers around. I have her permission to share this. We actually, she was my editor. My daughter's advice to me was just, Mom, don't cry. So I'm going to do my best, but I'm already like thinking about it because it's just, and y'all might like completely hate it too. So
I highly doubt.
Yeah.
I want to add one more thing.
Yeah.
Crying is a natural response to sad things, and if you need to cry, you should cry, and I'll just cry with you, and they might cry too. I don't know.
I'm probably going to start crying.
We cry.
as well.
We cry here if we
You
need
can
to
say
cry.
that you're just sweating out of your eyeballs.
Yeah.
That's what I tell people.
Oh, yes. I'm just doing.
Don't worry, guys. It's just a very large mental workout.
Yes, a mental workout. Yes, it's an emotional mental workout. Love it. All
Well,
right.
when you're ready, we'd love to listen.
Okay. All right. So this is Designing Childhood, a letter to young people. So do you remember being afraid of the monster under your bed? So the kind that only appeared when the lights were off, and the kind that disappeared the moment your mom or dad flipped on the lamp and said, "Oh, it's okay. You're safe. See? Oh, there's nothing there." Yeah, I remember those monsters too. And now I'm the parent. And the monster in our house was different. It didn't live under the bed. And it didn't disappear when the lights came on and I said it's all going to be okay. It appeared with one click, one swipe, and suddenly was back on the screen inside my child's room. So for 11 weeks, I didn't understand what was driving the nightmares. 11 weeks of restless nights, 11 weeks of dark circles under her eyes. and 11 weeks of asking the question every parent asks when something feels wrong. What is happening to my child? Until one morning we found it, one sharp edge glistening beneath her pillow. My old tablet. The one I thought was locked in my cabinet, put away. And in that moment, something shifted in me. Because that monster wasn't imaginary, it had a maker. And that maker had built an environment where anyone could walk in. But here's what I want you to understand. And I mean you specifically, right? Listening to this right now, sitting here in this room with me, is that tablet wasn't just a device, it was an environment. And an environment somebody else had designed for my child without her consent or mine. And I just don't mean the screen, because think about this. Your walk to school has been mapped, photographed, and now made searchable. And the route you take through your neighborhood, the park where you hang out, the bus stop, your face, your voice, your interests, your fears, all of it uploaded, all of it analyzed, and all of it sold. Because you were never just the user. You were always the product. And nobody asked you. They certainly didn't ask me. So let me tell you what's actually happening. And not to scare you, but because you deserve to know what's really going on. So y'all are here talking about the brain, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So your brain right now is doing something remarkable. And neuroscientists call this period of heightened social reward sensitivity, which is a really complicated way of saying your brain is wired right now more than any other point in your life to ask one question above all others. Do I belong? And that's not a weakness. That's your biology. A message back, a like, an accepted follow request. Research shows these triggers the same reward pathways in your brain, and they're also can be known as addictive behaviors. So researcher Bruce Perry has spent 30 years studying how connection shapes the brain, and his finding that your history of real connection to family, community, culture is more predictive of your mental health than almost anything else. Real connection, not engagement, not likes. And here's what the platforms know that they're counting on you not to. The online connection doesn't release the same chemistry as being physically present with people who actually know you. The loneliness you feel after hours on your phone, that's not a bug. That's the business model. Infinite scroll, notifications, streaks, algorithms that learn with frightening precision exactly what keeps you watching. These aren't accidents of design. They are intentional choices aimed directly at the part of your brain that is the most alive right now. And right now, more than 5 billion people worldwide use social media. In the United States, nearly half of all teenagers say they're online almost constantly, not sometimes constantly. Quick poll, how many of you are on every day? Yeah?
All of us.
All of us. Yeah. That constantly, that word should give us pause, because constantly means something has replaced something else. And remember that matching system I mentioned and kind of the engagement and what drives to who? Well, a system that looks at who you are, what you respond to, how you're feeling, and finds someone to send your way. Sometimes that's a funny video. Sometimes that's a new friend. And sometimes that system has put the wrong person in a child's path. And Snap's own internal documents show the company was receiving 10,000 reports of child harm every single month. And Snap knew. And they didn't just tell you, or they just didn't tell you, but the algorithm knows the difference. Or worse, it doesn't care. So the next time someone tells you these platforms are just neutral tools, you know something they might not. You know who built it. You know what it was built to do, and you know they knew. And yet, every single one of those kids who got hurt was looking for the same thing you are, the same thing that I was, same thing my daughter was, to belong. And that need didn't create the problem. The people who exploited it did. And that distinction matters because it means the need itself is still worth fighting for. So I grew up in 4-H, and one of the things that required of me, whether I wanted to or not, was to stand up in front of people and speak about what I cared about, to find words, to make the argument. So thanks, Mom. And today I'm a designer, not of objects, but of experiences. And I work with communities to solve complex problems together. And the hardest problem I keep coming back to is this. For the first time in human history, a significant part of childhood is happening inside environments built for profit, not for you, for profit. So the barns and fairgrounds and community halls I grew up in, they were built by adults who were trying to build something for us, not to keep us scrolling, not to sell our attention, to help us grow. And that's what I'm asking you to do today is stand up, find the words, make your arguments. And here's what I want to leave you with. Not a list of things to do, but some questions worth sitting with. If something online is making you feel worse about yourself, you're allowed to put it down. Not because an adult told you to, but because you decided you were worth more than that. And beyond that, I'm curious, what's the phone policy at your school? Do you even know? And if you do, does it actually work for you? Not for the school, but I mean for you. And what would a policy look like that you actually helped design? Because you're allowed to have that opinion and you're allowed to say it out loud to a teacher, to a principal, to an elected official. Most of them have never once been asked by someone your age. And that means your voice, your actual voice, lands harder than you think. Because your childhood, yours, and the childhoods of the kids who come after you is being designed right now. And the only question is whether you'll have a say in it. And I think you should. I think you will. The monster under my daughter's bed had a maker. But so does every environment that ever helped shape a child grow. The barns, the fairgrounds, the community halls, the attics in a podcast room, and the better digital spaces that are waiting to be built like this. Because design created this problem, and design, your generation's design, can be a part of solving it. So the question isn't whether childhood will be shaped by design. The question is, what kind of childhood are you going to design?
That was beautiful.
That was really well put.
That was amazing, honestly.
Thank you.
That was really breathtaking. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Hopefully that didn't feel like a lecture. Really wanted to open a conversation with you all, and I'm curious about the questions.
When I was younger, I went through a really bad situation online where I had met a person who was a year younger than me, and because of that fact, I thought that it was safe to start conversing with them. And that's coming from, I didn't like to talk to anybody online. I'm a very cautious person. And I ended up going down this rabbit hole of I just want them to like me and I want my friends to like me. And I started doing a lot of things that I shouldn't have been doing at that age and I shouldn't have been agreeing to at that age because I didn't understand how bad it was, and that the uncomfort that I was feeling was something that I should be saying no to. I shouldn't be agreeing to for someone else's opinion. And I think it's... You're right. It is dangerous to be letting kids go into spaces like that aren't watched and are made to just keep you on there, because it can lead to a lot of situations that can really detriment a child's mental health, especially when they're not mature enough to understand the difference between safety and I guess emotional gratification.
Oh, that really strikes me. And just thank you for sharing that. And it is, what's so frustrating is the how frequent that same story, right, echoes in a lot of people's experiences. And, I think about Snap and okay, the age, anybody can post whatever age, but then it's a little cartoon. So even, everybody's a cartoon. It looks so sweet and innocent. It's crazy to me, right? That kind of this is just, you can talk to anybody.
I read a statistic that, in the past 5 years, online grooming has gone up by 87%, I think it was, which is an insane amount. At the time of the recording, this is 2026, And I mean, think about the difference between 2018 and right now. It all comes from the want for praise. You know, the want for acceptance is a better word for it. And that comfort that comes with it of someone who's older than you telling you that you are mature for your age, or that you are
Finally feels like
nice.
someone's taking you seriously when that is not the case.
A lot of people don't understand that because they don't grow up with these things, you know? People who are in charge of this should be aware of what goes on, because how else are these laws going to be passed to protect our children? I know in schools in California, at least, they're widely banning phones from schools by telling kids to line up and put your phone in the box every class period, and then you get it back at the end of the day. That does nothing. That doesn't protect our kids from internet addiction or anything like that. It just stops them from whipping out their phone in class. So, you know, it's a systemic thing. And I think we should be more connected in person rather than online. Not that being connected online is inherently a bad thing. I talk to my friends a lot online, but we shouldn't be able to have all of our self-worth be put on strangers that we don't know, because nothing good can happen from that. And where that root comes from is the companies who run it. Like what you said, profit-based stuff. That's kind of what decides it, and the people meant to regulate that don't know what's going on. So, of course, terrible things happen very easily. That's my opinion.
Oh, that's so, what really strikes me in that it's not, again, it's not just our kids that are distracted by phones and struggling with this. I mean, as adults, right? Like I definitely, most of my work is remote. I'm on my computer all day long. And I got all of these different Gmail notifications and reminders and all that stuff, along with social media. And it's this conscious, how do we put the phone down and engage with people in a room, in person, intentionally. I think that's a call to everybody of how do we do that? And
Can I ask you a question?
yeah.
While you were going through this situation that you're talking about, what would you say was the hardest part for you as a parent?
Feeling like no matter what I said or did, a fear that I was causing more harm. And I was just trying to be supportive and listen and be there for her. But because it was things she had to wrestle with herself and work through, I couldn't do that work for her, right? It's like if you go do workout at the gym, right? There's nobody else that's going to be able to do that. You're going to have to do that.
That would be nice, though.
Oh, God, I would love that. Oh my gosh. But right, back to the earlier comment when we were joking about tears being, your mental workout. Again, it was her mental workout, and I could support her and cheer her on and be the biggest cheerleader out there. But at the end of the day, it was hers to own and to pick up and to do that. And I'm so freaking proud of her. She's incredible, and she is done the work and is through a lot of it. But it's, you as a parent, you want to fix things. You want to be able to fix it, and to know that I couldn't do anything in that way. Yeah.
Would you be comfortable sharing more on what happened?
So I have a little bit that she's okay with me sharing, and the other parts of it, she,
of course,
definitely. So the challenge that happened was that she, kind of similar to your story, how you said, oh, there's somebody younger than me, I can trust this person. The problem is that younger person wasn't actually younger, and was another, again, people that were out to do nefarious things and take advantage of a very young, at the time, 12-year-old. So
disgusting.
Getting onto platforms to talk to friends, right, starts out very innocent, and I just want to talk to my friends, and that's all it was to start with. But then a friend of a friend referring somebody else, and all of a sudden it's a whole network of people. And I'll just say, the other is just that then there's the the addictive side of it, of just not getting sleep. That was the other part that really, again, that I saw such a drastic change so quickly. I mean, I'm going, okay, is it drugs? Is it what? Like, you know, you're trying to figure anything of like what's going on, but like not being able to solve that. And then finally that aha of like, oh, and then going through and finding the amount of screen time. And I was like, I could see for the last 11 weeks, I was like, she was maybe getting an hour of sleep at night. Right? What does that do to your brain if you get an hour of sleep at night?
It's not good at all. Your brain doesn't have any time to process or rest or refresh, and you end up turning into a walking zombie.
Yeah.
I know. I used to have a problem with I'd come home from school and I'd do all my chores and I'd do my homework, and then it would be 9 o'clock and I would have been up since 5 just working, and I'd cop out my phone to finally get my free time, and I'd stay up until 3 a.m., go to sleep, wake back up at 5 and do it again. And it wasn't good for me. It wasn't good to not actually get the amount of sleep that's good for your brain, because I wanted a little bit of freedom.
Can you say more about what wanting freedom, like why was that?
I see at my house, I don't want to say too much, but my mother's a very specific character. I love her to pieces, and I know that she loves me to pieces, but the way that we interacted with each other, it wasn't very healthy all the time. It wasn't very healthy most of the time, and that applies on my part sometimes as well. Definitely not fully, because I lived with her up until I was 17. I was a child, but it was a lot of, I was just going home and not getting any time to hang out with my friends, not any time to do my hobbies. I would just be cleaning, and then if I wasn't doing good enough, I would be upsetting my mother. And then at school, she expected me to have the best of grades, and so I didn't have any time to socialize at school either. And I lived in Fort Dick, so there was no going outside to hang out with the neighbors. I was alone. I was alone out there, and so I would turn to like the only thing I had, my phone, the internet. I can't look around and find it, and so I was finding all of my me time in like the middle of the night when I was supposed to be sleeping, because my entire schedule was packed so tight that I didn't have any time to like sit down and rest and have fun.
No, but oh my gosh, like light bulbs going off for me. Like, so I'll say this is just like from another parent perspective. Mm-hmm. There's so much stress and worry and anxiety about like making sure that our children are safe and have all of the things they need to succeed. And I think there is definitely a culture and pressure on moms in particular to make sure that everything is organized and just so, and that our kids are scheduled in every facet is a certain, it is a social pressure, and like the implicit,
you're creating a whole human being, and you're trying to make them into the best human being you can. You're trying to instill skills in them that they need, trying to give them a good personality. You're trying to make sure that they feel safe with you, that you have a good relationship with them, and trying to juggle all of that at once. It's stressful. It's a lot, and you can't be expected to have it all perfect when you're living life for the first time as well. And I understand that. I respect my mom a lot. She gave me a very good upbringing. That's why I'm like, I love her and I know that she loves me. It's just sometimes our interactions, it wasn't good. And so having some space between us, I can appreciate her from a distance.
Well, and hearing the pattern of structure in the way that you were sharing that, it echoes a lot of the conversations I've had with my daughter about that, finding that balance, and like how much is the right amount of alone time or like free unstructured time to connect, and in what spaces she does that and how. So we're a lot more open about that now, and I credit therapy for helping us like navigate and find the tools to talk about what she needed to share with me of like, hey, I need this, and this is how I would like to do this, and that included learning. She had to relearn what was healthy connection online, and like we found some really great like group. So she learned poetry through one of her online groups that she joined. And so that, like, they joined and it's a bunch of poets, and like, that's who she connected with. And then so I think too, how each of you find your words to like help articulate that and push back on parents when it's like, hey, I need this too. Yeah.
What was the biggest impact this had on both you and your daughter?
I think it really eroded confidence. And what I saw was both for myself as a mom, like my confidence in trusting that I know what is best for my child and able to have that relationship with her and connection. And also her self-confidence in like who she was, and seeing just all the hate and things that can come through the internet and on these platforms, just how quickly that seeps in. And I think that's really what took some time to rebuild and to recalibrate and figure out what really matters, right? And it's not, I don't know if figure out's the right word, but almost remember it, because can be so pervasive.
In What Happened to You, written by Dr. Bruce Perry and Oprah, Dr. Perry uses an analogy about like, when traumatic things happen or when we experience trauma, a big part of healing is, he explains that like it's like there's been a shipwreck, and you have to, on your own terms, revisit that shipwreck and pick up the piece you're ready to look at, and then like reassemble it into a new worldview. And that's kind of what I'm hearing you say right now, like with the confidence piece, when you were saying like, I'm not sure if that's the best word, right? Because like really what I'm hearing you say in terms of the brain is like, you've had to reorganize your worldview around this event that's happened to you to see like how and where it fits into your life and the way that you're going to look at the world now that this has happened.
Yeah, no, that's a really, I really appreciate that book and the framing that they put together. And I think what's hard is, often we think about trauma as a one-off event, but this question I keep wrestling with, and what I was writing about in the letter to you all that I shared, is like, what happens when that is so pervasive and it's around? So if all your friends are on that platform and everybody's always talking about it, and that's where all the things happened over the weekend, and oh, it's so-and-so and so-and-so and this thing. And so the noise doesn't shut off if that shipwreck is constantly being revisited and brought up all the time, and you don't have a free space to put it away. Every break at school, in the bathrooms, the phone comes back out, and people are oh, I'm not on that anymore. And that's really what I heard my child struggling with, was like, it's hard to say no to that and walk away from that when everybody else is still using and engaging in that. And I think that can be applied to a lot of different addictive patterns, not just, when we're talking about technology.
It sounds to me like, or at least in my experience, a lot of people use social media as a third space, right? You have your home space and you have your school space. And this idea of a third space, like a safe space that you get to do your own. Social media kind of slots in there, but everyone needs that kind of third space. After this, how did you find that kind of third space for your daughter?
So I think one of the things was we wanted to make sure that she did have spaces online that she could learn how to engage in a healthy way, and to not, the idea to walk away from technology and these platforms completely doesn't make sense in the world that we live in. And so we were able to find some different online classes that she joined. So one of them was a poetry class. And that was her, online forum where she was able to really connect with other teens from across the country and have that support. And there's different drop-in classes she can do. And I just, I think when folks are struggling with like, where's the healthy space, I think looking for, okay, how do we teach our kids the kind of digital literacy skills and other ways to engage in the platform, but model it instead of, I can tell her all I want, hey, this is the way to do this, or I can say, hey, if you want to have that, create that third space and connect with other kids who are as nerdy as you are about poetry, like here's a great group. And that, I think that was one of those moments for her where I saw her really start to kind of move through what felt like, oh, this is a really negative experience, to, oh, I can connect with people in a healthier way and still use technology. I won't say I used social media because I think most social media is not neutral. I don't think that's, if it's free, that means you're for sale.
I like that quote. That's good. I know I'll look through social media, I'll look through people's like whatever they're doing or whatnot, and I'll feel insecure about myself. I'll post a perfected version of myself, and people will say things to me online that they'd never say to me in person because they know, they're hiding behind a screen. But when I interact with my friends online, and I interact in a way like playing games like Gartic Phone on my phone and just laughing with my friends and stuff like that, finding a community of people that is a safe space is something that is possible online, and I think is really great. So I do love that you were able to find that.
Yeah, I'd be so curious when you talk about a safe space online, what are some of those things that you look for?
I look for people that I know in real life. So I don't find random dudes on the internet, because that's usually not good. Mm-hmm. I mean, I have made a couple friends online, but I usually try to stay away and I don't really get too close. Any friend that I do know online and purely online, they usually don't know anything about me past like my first name, but yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Mm-hmm. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the concept of saying something is safe, when you're talking about kids, we should definitely interrogate that. Snapchat, it's an interesting one. You can practice that, finding only people you know, but the way that the platform is designed to really entice people to, oh, you can't keep your streak up if you don't make new friends. Well, there's kind of a limit on how many people you know in person before you start then being incentivized to make friends with the people that you don't know. Similar with the mapping, you can turn your map off, but the social pressure of not being seen on the map, what that does, again, like you can say, oh, well, there's these safety protections here, or there's a report any, user here, but on the back end, if nothing is done to those accounts that are reported, if nobody's held accountable, there's no follow-up, those are all concerning things. And so I think that's where, I think as individual users, everybody can practice some basic safety and things like, don't reach out to folks you don't know. If somebody reaches out to you and they say they know your friend or they know you, that still doesn't mean you know them. Not sharing personal information, not sharing your school, your pictures of your house, that kind of stuff, and pictures in general. I just think that the platforms themselves are inherently not safe. So trying to find other ways. I will say, like, I still have my Facebook account. And the only reason I have my Facebook account is because I have friends on there that it's the only way I've stayed in contact with them. And so that's, mainly how I engage there. And then also from a business perspective with our farm, it's like, there's times where everybody wants to follow farm animals, which is great. Like, seeing animals is fun. Can we go back to the funny cat videos, please?
What about you, McCole? Are there any thoughts you'd want to bring?
Were there any signs from your daughter when this was happening? Like, were you able to tell that there was something else going on in her personal life when she was going through this online?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely, at first it was just kind of like, oh, this is adolescence, like just kind of a switch had flipped and it was like, whoa, this is really different. Oh, okay. And just irritable and tired and not, and doing a lot more isolating, like going to her room a lot more. And so those were all things that had me concerned, but I kept asking and trying to like gently figure out what was happening. I think in all sense, like the time when she had access to the tablet and was online was 11 weeks. And that doesn't sound that long, but if you're not sleeping and you're constantly up every night during that time, and we saw a lot of different things that was like, whoa, this is a totally different person in that amount of time.
Something that makes it really difficult is, as you all know, like your brains change a lot, right? Especially right around this age. And so these aren't atypical behaviors for young people. Like it is very typical for young people to kind of start to withdraw from their parents and to get a little spicy with us, as I'm sure none of you have ever done with your own parents, right? Never. So, and there's actually Coastal Connections does a really great training on this. It's called Youth Mental Health First Aid. And it helps adults identify, okay, so like what is the difference between typical teenage behavior and then when we're seeing like signs and symptoms that there might be a greater mental health issue going on, right? And so that's the line that as a parent you're trying to toe. Like this adolescence, I don't know if y'all know this, but you are some challenging young people. Like all young people are challenging because of that developmental stuff. I mean, there's, it's called neural pruning. When you hit puberty, I'm not exaggerating, you lose like half your brain. Your brain is just like, I don't need this stuff anymore, and it flushes it out, right? So you literally, and this is like right around 6th grade, like it's middle school, right? So we like basically abandon kids, all the adults stop communicating, and then they lose half of their brains, literally, right? And then you've got all these physical changes that are just like super overwhelming. So anyway, I'm rambling to say that really highlights, I think, one of the biggest struggles as a parent, right? Is like, when does it become something that is more than just the normal stuff that y'all go through, that we all have went through? Is there any question you haven't asked that you want to ask her?
FOMO and peer pressure. I'm not sure if those entirely things have been mentioned. And those are great encouragers for people to keep going to these apps. How would you say, what is a good way for children to avoid said things from these apps?
Well, I can answer this as a parent. What helped was finding real children in real life and then coordinating play dates and getting together and making time to make it happen. So putting on the crock pot and inviting said family and their kids over to the house. I mean, like, my house is a disaster, but I need these kids to play. I need to do like intentional, it's hard. Making friends when you're young is hard, but you're in all of the same age and in the same school. And then as a parent, you're like, okay, so those look like, okay, seems like my kid's kind of interested in that kid. Okay, cool. So then I'm like strategizing, like during pickup, do I run into him? Do I see him? How do I get a hold of them? Like, what's the way that I can be the parent friend, but like not be like overly like aggressive in coordinating, but like, hey, how do I put the signal up that says like, hi, we want to like get together because you look like you're going to be a safe person in my child's life. It is like,
it's horrible.
It's terrible.
Like, y'all have seen those Facebook videos about how kids make friends, right? You walk up and you're like, I like your shoes. I like your shoes too. You want to see me run fast? Yeah, let's run fast. My name's Arnold. Do you want to be my friend? Yeah, let's be friends, right? And I'm like, I want to make friends like that. I want to just walk up to another 40-year-old lady. Actually, I did kind of make a friend like that. And be like, you have a 2-year-old. I have a 2-year-old. We have the same stroller. Let's be friends, you know?
That's all fun and games until you go to a job interview and they're like, all right, how fast do you run? I heard you're the fastest kid at the playground.
Then it gets into kickball and, whose team's on who. And yeah, I know. All kidding aside, it goes back to, it's something that I have to make time to make sure that my kids have time to engage with their friends and in supervised areas and places until I know that that is a friend that is going to make good choices with them, and meet the parents and engage with them and just get to understand and know them. And I think we are all really busy, and it's very easy to kind of shortcut some of that stuff. And I definitely did some of that as well. Like, I did not know some of the friends that my kid was walking to and from the coffee shop with, and other engagements where I knew some of them, but I didn't know a few of the new ones that came in. And lo and behold, the new ones were a lot of the like, oh, we don't have any regulation on our phone. We don't have anything. My kid didn't have any devices. She had none. But because, you know, another kid does have access, they know which platforms and how, and they've been coached, and some of them have been groomed. And that's what's hard. Like, it's finding that way to do that. And I'm not saying this to say like set the bar so high that you have to be perfect. And again, like, I go to some birthday parties and it's like, oh, that's another level. Okay, man, like that's like so coordinated and perfect and all the things. And then I'm just like, I talk myself out of like having the perfect thing. And then it's like, oh, well, then I can't possibly get the play dates together. But you'd have to have like a little organizing hat on. You have to kind of like be like, all right, like who's the network of people, real people in person that we're going to cultivate and be intentional about that.
You have to try and be their parent, but not their friend, but you also have to be their friend, but
I'm
not
like
their
the ultimate
parent.
mother wingman,
Yeah.
you know, like I gotta,
the cool mom, but not the too cool one, but also not the lame one.
yeah, no, I can't be the friend, but I'm her mom. Yeah.
I can imagine it's very hard trying to how do I phrase it? Balance, you know, giving your child the freedom to, you know, find themselves and explore the world, because, you know, if you kept your kid inside all day and they didn't scrape their knees, they're not going to learn how to survive on their own. But at the same time, you know, you're their parent and you want to keep them safe and make sure that they're not, you know, turning out wrong, you know, going down the wrong path. And so I'm just, I can just imagine it's very difficult.
Yeah. And I mean, I appreciate that you brought up failure, because I think that a huge part of adolescence is learning through failure. I mean, that's life.
Yep.
But it is the time when the reason you don't have that like risk evaluation in your brain, and that's not really developed till you're like 25, is because you are supposed to be taking risk. You are supposed to be leaning in and trying things and failing and adjusting, and you are building all these neural pathways that, like, if you take risk and you decide to go rock climbing and like engage in that, like, you're actually building lifelong habits and things that may set the patterns of what you like to do for the rest of your life. And so thinking in that way of like, okay, like I am all about my children taking risks, but they need to be risks that have some safety to them so that she can fail safely and know that it's okay and there's no judgment for that failure. I am just so proud that she got in the ring and, you know, even tried. There's no expectation that they have to be the best.
Yeah. You should be able to, it's best to be able to learn from your consequences, but without, you know, having no one to catch you or completely falling apart. That's what, you know, the point of having these connections, the safety net is so that in these times, you're not trying to, like, you know, imagine Humpty Dumpty, he fell off the wall and he didn't have the king's horses and the king's men trying to put him back together again, and he's having to like use his like half broken arm to do it himself. It's not feasible. You can't ask somebody to do that.
I really like what you said there, failing safely. I like that.
Humpty Dumpty didn't get himself put back together. The king's horses and king's men couldn't do that, though.
I don't
He
know.
wasn't able. He's an egg.
Well, listen,
But if we raise our children to be fragile eggs, if we don't,
Yeah.
right? Like if so that
A whole big
point,
thing about this
yeah.
generation is that we're afraid to fail in cringe culture. The word cringe in general is just to be oppressive. Be cringe. Be yourself. Make failure happen. That's the only way you learn. You won't learn if you never fall on your face to get back up again.
Yeah. Well said.
Well, and like hands down with neuroscience, the way a stress response system gets built is through stress. Stress and growth coexist. Now, there can be toxic stress, right? And that's where we get into like how it can rewire the brain and create different, but I'm not talking about toxic stress. I'm talking about the fact that you have to study for an exam, or that you have to do a ballet recital in front of a bunch of people, or, you know, all of those. And Lee, like, you're so right? It's I almost have this quote by heart. It's in chapter 4 of What Happened to You. Dr. Perry's talking about all the research they've done. Like, they as in like neuroscientists and people, you know, way smarter than me. But he says, it's something like, this won't be verbatim, but what our research consistently shows is that the biggest predictor of your mental health is your relational connectedness to family, to community, and to culture. It is not your adversity. And I wish I could like scream that from a rooftop, because I feel like people are running around like, we have to stop trauma. Like, really? We're going to stop people from dying? Like, no, we're not going to do that. And it is traumatic when we lose people we love, right? But it's just like silly to like run around and try to stop trauma, right? I don't think it's silly at all to run around and try to increase connection.
Yeah.
Because connection is our buffer, right? And I can tell you with full confidence why you and your daughter and your family got through this is because you have those relational buffers. That exact same thing can happen to a different kid that does not have those relational ties, and they will suffer forever, and they will go on a trajectory that will end them either experiencing homelessness, addicted to drugs, incarcerated. There's a whole list of adverse outcomes. The difference is not the trauma we experience. It's the people that we're connected to when we experience it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's that was one quote in particular. Yeah, I have that one written in my journal.
I say it every time that I get a chance. All these kids are looking at me like, I have probably heard this like 50,000 times now.
Yeah. It's really real. And I think what sticks with me for that one is that your the connection piece and the relationship is critical. And that is absolutely, like, I would not, without my mom and sister and some of my mama friends, like, would not have had the support for myself to navigate any of this and go, okay, what are the signs and signals? And yes, I need to act. I need to do things. I need to put in some other things in place.
And then you have those people to revisit that shipwreck with, right? And help you like reorganize it. And you're doing some of that with your daughter, but like you need a layer of your own adults, if you will, right?
Yeah. And that's something I will say. So I will say this is like, we have a lot, I think a lot of attention right now, and as it should be, to what are the resources for our young people. But I beg people to ask the question as well, to look at the whole family and to figure out, hey, if something is going on with any one person in the family, to check in with the other members of the family and see how they're doing and what kind of supports they might need. Or if you are somebody that has gone through something similar, to offer support, or just to be there and say, hey, I've been there, I'm here. Just that simple, the back to listening and just being there, that really helps, because it feels there's so much, I think our culture gets so much around this, like the social image and the FOMO, but also shame. Like, talking about mental health is taboo and all these things that we shouldn't talk about. And it's like, no, we should be able to say, hey, I tried something and I failed, or, I go to a therapist and they're great. And I love having that support, and it's given me so many tools. And I don't go to a therapist all the time, but I've had moments, transitions in my life when I needed that support. And I lucked out that my first therapist that I worked with was actually my youth pastor. And that felt very natural. It was like I went to youth group really because I liked the volunteer side of it. And so like we went and did really cool trips to Mexico and built houses and stuff. And so it's like, okay, this is somebody I trust. I can talk to them. And so that was a really grounding moment. But again, in this moment, I had a really hard time getting a hold of a therapist or getting into somebody that would fit with my insurance and stuff. So there was a big gap. And during that, I reached out to another pastor that I know locally, and they were my way that I got through until I could get more clinical help that I wanted. But just to say, like, there are informal places. You don't have to just go through insurance, or if you can't find that, and faith isn't for everybody in that, but I'm not a heavy church going person in my adult life. That's not something I do, but I've still found that to be, it's a role of figuring out in your life, like, who are those people that they're there to knit a community together. They're there to be supportive. And sometimes that can be your pastor. Sometimes that can be a coach. Like, there's lots of adults in your life that are in these more informal roles that can be a lifeline.
What should parents do if they have a bad feeling but don't actually have proof?
Listen to your gut. Yeah.
Good.
Yep. There's usually something, like, even if you don't have proof or can't see it. And all I can say for me was, like, being I don't know, I had this image in my mind of, like, oh, am I becoming my mother? And, like, and in a good, I mean, my mom's a really good mom. But school teacher, very, authoritative figure in my life. And, so, like, that idea of, like, okay, I'm going to be doing, like, checking her room in the morning and, like, being, like, right in her business for a little while. 'Cause it's like, no, it's okay to be right in their business. Like, they might not be the happiest with you in that moment, but, like, that is just, and just being there. I'll say, even after, like, we figured some stuff out, it was another 6 months before we got into some other conversations that were deeper, and I got to understand more. So it took 6 months of constantly being in her business and being very, very close up and engaged of just, like, I'm here. Like, I'm not telling you what to do, but I'm here. Like, I'm here. Canceled several work trips and stuff just to make sure, like, I was like, nope, I'm here. And finally she opened up and reopened up and talked to me more. And it was like, okay, then things came together, and it was like, oh, okay. Like, we can work with this. We can, and I think too, I would say a message to you all is, like, I think often the conversations that, like, you don't have with your parents or with an adult, like, you make it bigger and bigger and bigger the longer you wait. And so then it just becomes this mountain of something you couldn't possibly ever tell them. And that you see them as an adult, but we were all in your same shoes at one point or another and had our own mountains that we didn't want to talk about. And still do, right? I mean, I think that's the point of this, is, like, we're all human, and it is easier if you can find somebody to talk about it. And I don't mean going online and, like, sharing your story and creating some kind of, like, expose or thing, because I don't think you get the same kind of, again, it's not a meaningful connection. I mean, finding your safe person, whether that's your parent or it's a coach or somebody else, to share and talk, and just don't wait, like, have the conversation. Because it's really not as big as you think it's going to be. Yeah.
And I just want to say, towards parents outside of, safety threatening kinds of situations, sometimes, something that I experienced when it came to, wanting to go to my parent and talk to my mom and my dad about those kinds of things. I need help. The biggest fear of mine is I'm going to go and I'm going to talk about this, and then everything after that is going to be out of my hands, right? It's going to start going into situations that I don't want it to go into. Like, for example, kids teasing me in school. I don't want my mom to go to the school and yell at the principal. I don't want that to happen, but that's the first thing that I go to. And so I think a lot of, parents want to protect their kids, and so they'll jump to trying to fix the situation instead of asking, again, outside of safety threatening things, it's sometimes just sitting down and asking, what do you want me to do in this situation? Is very helpful, because then, I'm going to have a little bit more agency in this, instead of, I'm just trying to go into this to have some like a shoulder to lean on. And now there's so many more things on my plate that I didn't want in the first place. So I thought that was.
It's very, very true. And since I'll say touche, and that's stuff that I'm not perfect every time. And I think there's definitely been times where I go into, I want to fix mode. But my daughter has taught me that I need to just listen and be there at times. And so that's been more of what we worked on. And that 6-month period was just me going, waiting, I'm here. I promise I'll just listen. It did finally pay off.
Yeah.
Oh, can I say one more thing about that? Just as an extension, one of my favorite things to say to people when they're like sharing their story with me, especially if it's like something they're struggling with, is just to say, do you want feedback, or do you want me to, like, do you just want somebody to listen, or do you want feedback?
All the
time.
time.
I love saying that to people. And it's so interesting because the look they give me is like, are you for real? And I'm like, yeah. And I really don't care either way. Right. I just want to show up for you however you need it.
That's one I've started using with my mother.
Isn't it amazing?
And I love it as an adult child.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm like, okay, I'll preface this now, and I'll be like, all right, I'm going to say this, and I just need you to listen. I don't need feedback.
Yeah, we can also coach
right?
people.
You can say, and it's like made such a difference, because I'd find myself getting defensive, and I'm like, no, like, I mean, it'll be silly stuff like, oh my gosh, signing the kids up for like programs and then getting, health things scheduled. And I'm just upset because I can't get people to call me back. And it's like it takes a lot of time, and it's intensive. And so I'm just sitting there trying to troubleshoot to get it done. But I'm like, I don't actually need a fix. Like, I know that the system is already broken, and it's just like, you have to kind of keep at it very consistently. So yeah, I just want somebody to complain to. And it's like, Mom, just listen to me. It's okay. I don't need you to call. I don't need you to do this. Just listen. And I'm like, oh yeah. Same thing. I'm sure my daughter's giggling about this. Yeah. I hear a lot currently from people about like boundaries. Oh, I set my boundaries, and I broke, this person crossed my boundaries. But if you don't ever actually say what that boundary is, if you don't communicate that, and you have family norms that have gone a certain way for a long time, and it may be something as you're growing up, you're figuring out that isn't working for me. It's okay to say it isn't working for you, but if it's unspoken norms in your family, and then you don't take the time to articulate that to your family, you haven't set a boundary. You've set an unfair expectation that they somehow can read your mind. And that, I've seen so many relationships fall apart because it was, again, these mountains that you don't talk about. And it's like, if we just sit down and have the conversation, 9 times out of 10, in my experience, the most difficult conversations I've ever had to have in my life went pretty good. Once we got over it and through it, it was like, okay, that was it. All right, moving on. So just, a challenge to articulate it, and that you may get pushback, and that's okay, because a boundary isn't one-sided. That is if it's a relationship, right? If you don't have a relationship with, set the boundary you want, and that's cool. Like, you absolutely. But when you're talking about family and your friends and who you're cultivating these relationships with, that is a two-way exchange of where that boundary gets set and how, and being willing to give a little bit and take a little bit and engage in how that happens. And that only can happen through conversation. And I think there's something, I don't know, I've just been talking with my husband about this recently. It was just like how busy we got in our lives right now. And like there's like, used to be this like social etiquette, right? Of like, what's the proper greeting, and, hello, sir, ma'am, and very formalized kind of routines of or traditions of like how you greet people. And in different cultures, it's different for different communities and families. But I think there's something we've lost in this. When you think about how often are you like running through a door and you're on your phone, and like coming home and you're on your phone, and you miss these moments, these transition moments in your day. And I think that's something, so for myself, it's a challenge of like transition moments. Am I taking the time in that transition either to greet and connect with myself again and be like, oh, great, I get some alone time and reset and, you know, what do I want to do? Or do I scroll my phone mindlessly? And same with my family. Like when I come through the door or my husband comes through the door, like who is there to greet and say hello? And same for my children. Like that, taking that time and just those, it goes back to those little moments again. Or do my kids grow up seeing people that don't talk to each other and don't greet each other when they come into a home each day? Like what is it that you want people to see and experience, and how do you treat these little moments as the real rituals, the real things that matter? Because that's what tells your kid that they matter and they belong in your home and that you are happy to see them. Like you don't have to take them on big vacations and all these fancy things. Like just how can you think about the last moment somebody, like you came in and you truly knew they were excited to see you?
My dog.
Oh, yes. I know. I love my puppies.
Sorry, first thing that came to mind is you know, opening the door and seeing my tiny little Chewini just sobbing his eyes out at the door, like trying to scratch through the door to say hi to me. I wish my family greeted me like that. If you don't pee when you see me, do you really love me? I just...
My Labrador just tackles me every time I open the door.
That's love.
I pee when I see you, Hazel.
That's creepy.
What would you say to a kid who might be going through something similar to what your child went through?
You're not alone.
Yeah.
You are not the only kid who's navigated or had this. And like, shockingly, when I'm driving a bunch of these kids to school and I like, you know, do little van pulls like, hey, has anybody had this happen or whatever? And all of them, I'm like, oh, okay. So you're not alone. The people online do not matter, and find a real person, a real human to talk to that will listen. And if you can't find a person, talk to your dog, but like find some real physical person or animal to connect to, because the online stuff, it can feel like the whole world, right? That the whole world actually exists online. And that is all zeros and ones, and that's all it is.
Can I add just a little bit to that? You can walk up to pretty much anybody and say, can you help me? And they will help you. Not everybody all the time, but like there are hundreds, thousands of good people out there, because I think a lot of times kids don't realize that like most people really will help you. Like if you like your teacher and you feel connected to your teacher, but you don't have that trust yet, you can walk up to your teacher and say, can you help me? And that person will stop and look at you and help you most of the time. Is there anything that any of you, I want to put that question back to you all. What would any of you want to say to a kid that's going through something?
You know, I'm a kid myself, right? This could happen to me, probably. I mean, you know, as it could happen to anyone. I mean, if I knew someone in that situation, I'd tell them to, you know, go talk to someone that you love, right? Go, because there is most definitely someone out there who cares about you. And if you find yourself sort of cornered in this kind of situation, and you know, a lot of these times people get in these situations and they can't tell anyone, right? There can be blackmail that goes on, and you just have to get out there and talk to someone that you love, man. You just gotta find.
I'll say something I learned in just doing more research. Not again, I'm being careful. Like there's a lot of stuff I'm not sharing about my daughter's experience, just to say it's pretty universal. A lot of people have gone through a lot of the things, and bullying and mean things and dangerous people and bad content and things you don't want your children to see, right? I would say sadly, a lot of people have seen these things. But I will say, like, one thing that I learned in my research was that tactic of blackmail. most of the time they're not anywhere near where you are. So they might be in the Philippines, they might be in Russia, they might be, I mean, it's very, it's a phishing scam. It's really like they're using things to try to make it more. And a lot of the situations are they don't actually have that much control, but they've created the visual of it.
A lot of the blackmail can be like pictures of sensitive photos that you don't want leaked, and then they'll be like, I'll message this to your parents or something.
Yes,
like
but
that.
they don't know your parents.
Oh.
That's the thing, right? So I'll message to your parents. I'll share this with your friends. They don't actually know your friends. They don't actually know your parents.
They're just betting on the fact that you don't want to take that chance that could get out there.
Yep. That
See, like
that
what I
was
just
my
said, I'm
point.
very susceptible. Please don't blackmail me.
Yes, exactly. No, but that was I learned that. I did not know that going in, and so that's one of those things. It's just that critical.
That's that information piece, right? Yeah.
Thank
What about the rest of you? Is there anything that you would say to a kid that might be going through something?
I have a
like
lot of thoughts swimming in my head that I could say right now. Mainly just reach out for help. Just reach out to someone you trust and know, and that can get you the help you need.
Lee, is there anything that you'd want to say to kids about this topic?
It can be really easy to find yourself in an unsafe situation and then find yourself saying, but I also had some hand in getting myself here, so in some ways it's my fault, or I deserve to be in this situation. And in the simplest of terms, it isn't your fault.
It's not your fault.
It is not your fault. Kids are innocent, and they don't understand, the world that as well as some people expect them to. And if you're in a bad situation, it's not like you intentionally wanted yourself to be there. You still deserve help, and you'd still deserve to be help like brought out of that. It's not your fault. I'm rambling.
How about you, McCall?
I mean, you guys said a lot of great points on there. But in my personal life, I've had pretty open internet access, and I think one of the biggest things that I've come to realize is that you can block people. It's really it's really pretty easy. I mean,
It's a really fun feature.
I've had a cell phone since as early as I can remember, probably like around the 4th grade. I shared a cell phone with my brother, and I mean, I had full internet access. I had social media, I had TikTok, I had a lot of platforms that I was willingly, for some reason, posting myself on. And obviously, I was a child on the internet. I didn't get the nicest feedback. And one of the features that obviously I have privacy accounts now, because I think that children shouldn't have just full reign access to all the things that the internet has to offer. But blocking people really does help, especially when it's just that simple thing that if someone's being mean online or you guys are there's not being a nice person, that you could just hit the block button and you don't have to deal with them, because it is just all online. And I think that takes a lot to take that and actually do. I used to think that I was being so mean by not blocking all these people that were like texting me and everything. But if they were putting me in a situation where I didn't feel good about myself or about just anything in general, it's really easy just to hit that block button and take them out of there.
Don't respond to messages who are people you don't know.
There's so many times where friends will come up to me and they'll just be like, there's this person and they won't stop messaging me and I don't know what to do. And I'll be like, block. You should block them. And they'll be like, no, I don't want to be rude. And I'm like, do you think they care? What do you mean?
Hit the block button.
Yes, block. Yep.
Alrighty, well, that's going to wrap up today's episode. Huge thank you to all of our listeners for hanging out with us, and a big shout out to Resilient Denatl for supporting this podcast. If you want to find more about us, head over to www.resilientdenatl.org at DNATL. And don't forget to stick with us for future episodes. We've got more amazing conversations coming your way. See you next time.